Thank you, sir. So I think without wasting much time, we'll start with this presentation only. And I must say this likely is valid only for today. The vaccines keep changing, COVID keeps changing. So what happens tomorrow may be different. And there is a lot of data in COVID vaccines. Like I said, sir, there are so many vaccines in the pipeline. So what I've tried and done is that I have removed the statistical data and will try and highlight what we should all know. What are the main points? What are the things we should all know, because the vaccines are still in use for adults only, but we need to know vaccines because we are pediatricians. So this is a slide I normally start always with. This is the size of our enemy, the coronavirus. This is a bacteria. This is a PM 2.5, which we keep seeing on our phones every day. This is the RBC, and this is PM 10. So you can imagine the size. And this is the smallest hole which can filter. This is a hole of N95 mask. So this can filter all these things. Imagine the size of this coronavirus, which has brought down everybody to his knees. This was the structure which we keep talking about earlier. But after that, genomic analysis was done and it was decoded more than a year ago. And this is the spike protein. As you can see, it looks very much like a ballistic missile ready to attack the mankind. And these are the various parts, the non-terminal domain, S1, S2, spike 1, spike 2. And these antibodies, what we've got done now, the antibody cocktail is against the spike 1 and spike 2. So these are the two portions where it works. So that is why it's called a dual cocktail. And NTD is now coming out, the non-terminal domain is coming out to be a bigger part in the spike protein rather than the RBD. So all the small details we'll not go into, but this is what the spike protein looks like, and this is what actually our vaccines are directed to make, and which antibodies are produced against this. So traditionally, we've been having whole virus vaccines. These are the inactivated vaccines. They all take almost 10, 12 years to make. Then we have the subunit vaccines, which elicit a very good response to the spike protein, and which is used to prevent the docking of the ACE2 receptors. So whole virus could be live and inactive. And these are the new two vaccine groups which we have tried this in this disease, which is the viral vector vaccines and the nucleic acid vaccines. Nucleic acid vaccines can be further divided into DNA, RNA, and then the messenger RNA based and the dendritic cell replicating, non-replicating. Viral vector also can be replicating and the non-replicating. What we have now is the non-replicating vaccines. These are the vaccines which are in the platform. What I wanted to show you was, our traditional live attenuated, inactivated are way down in the list. The most common ones are the non-replicating RNA-based and the protein subunit. You can see almost 66 of these vaccines are protein unit. So this 66 is the biggest, is the protein subunit, and this is a good time-tested technology. Our subunit vaccines are the influenza vaccine, hepatitis B vaccine, and they have been shown test of time. And the inactivated live virus are much lower down, 13, 18. These are very lower down. mRNA also 27, non-replicating viral vector. Something like AstraZeneca is also 27. So these are the vaccines which are there in the pipeline. And as of this March 21, after that, I couldn't find the data. 308 vaccine candidates are there in various stages of development. 73 are in clinical research, including 16 in the phase 3 development. So out of these 16 vaccines which are authorized in public use somewhere or the other, 2 of them are the RNA vaccines. We all know them, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. Then you have 7 conventional vaccines, the inactivated vaccines like our Covaxin. There are 2 Russian vaccines, the BBIP, WBIP, which I'll go into details, the Sinovac, Corivac. Then there's one from Kazakhstan also, and there's another one from Russia. 5 viral vector vaccines like Sputnik, Sputnik-like, Oxford, AstraZeneca, Covidicia, and J&J, and 2 peptide vaccines, the Epivac and the RDT dimer. Both of them are from China. So I'll tell you most of these vaccines we'll cover today in 2 slides each, just that so that we know what all these vaccines which are there in the market, what all they are about. Out of these 16, only 7 of them are approved for emergency use by the WHO. So those 16 are approved in their respective countries, like our Covaxin, but it is not approved by the WHO. And the 7 which are approved are the Pfizer-BioNTech, the Moderna, Sputnik V, Sinopharm, BBIPs, the Beijing Biologicals of China. Then you have Sinovac, again a Chinese vaccine, Oxford, AstraZeneca, and the Johnson & Johnson. So these ones are the 7 which are the WHO recognized vaccines. So starting with the most common, which we think is the best one, is the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, which is made by BioNTech, which is a German company, which is actually invented by the BioNTech and later on made by Pfizer. It is sold under the name of Comirnaty. So Comirnaty is the name which actually is the real name of the vaccine. And this company also has a tie-up in China where it's called the Fosun BioNTech. So instead of Pfizer-BioNTech, it's called Fosun BioNTech. And it's used in children 12 years plus older. It is actually composed of nucleotide modified mRNA, which encodes a full length spike protein. So now the newer ones which are coming in the market, which will soon come, they'll not be coding the full length. They might be coding only the entity or the RPT. And this is encapsulated in a lipid nanoparticle. It has 4,000 nucleotides. 2 doses are given 3 weeks apart. This is important. And the storage is very important. It is at minus 70 degrees centigrade. So that is why in our countries, it may not work well. But the good news is that the freeze-dried version is being tried and tested now. And this clinical trials were done in last year. And the efficacy was found to be 91.3%. The point to note is that this was done within 7 days of the second dose. So 7 days only. And it was the first vaccine to be authorized for emergency use, and not in America, but in UK. The vaccine efficacy noted was, so there is details like after first dose, before the second dose. We don't need to remember all this. What we need to remember is the efficacy was almost 95% in this trial. In 16 to 55 years, in more than 55, above 65, it is more or less the same. So what we can say is that it is effective in all the age groups uniformly. And this 7 days post-dose 2 was 94.2. Why I was emphasizing 7 days post-2? Because Moderna was evaluated 3 days after post-dose 2. So 3 weeks after. So the 3-week efficacy may be a little less as compared to 7 days. So, comparison of efficacy is very difficult, which I'll come to just now. And this is authorized, fully authorized in Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil. Even America, Germany, where it is invented and made, it's still not, it's still EUA. Then the second vaccine, which is fondly called as the mRNA-1273 vaccine, it is also a similar vaccine, exactly like the Pfizer vaccine, but it was made by US NIAID was there, and the Advanced Research and Development Authority was there. It is made only in US, not from Germany. Same RNA encapsulated whole length spike protein is coded by this. The good news I wanted to share was Moderna's second vaccine, which is called 1283. Instead of 1273, 1283. They have started phase 1 trials, and this will be refrigerator stable, 2 to 8 degrees, so it will be stored at. So we can soon expect a Moderna vaccine, which will be stored in our clinic refrigerators. The efficacy was very similar. Here it was found to be 94%, and storage at 2 degrees for 30 days is possible here, minus 20 for up to 4 months. The Pfizer can be stored at 2 to 8 degrees for a week, although in May they said that we also can store this for 30 days. So now more or less both of them can be stored for 30 days, but this is minus 20, that was minus 70 for 4 months. And this is the effectiveness graph where they started giving the vaccine. It is very obvious that cases increased where the vaccine was not given, where the vaccine was given. It was the red line which showed a marked reduction in the cases. And this is full authorization is given only in some Scandinavian countries, but the rest of the places, it's still the blue one, the emergency authorization is there. Then coming to the Chinese Sinovac Coronavac vaccine, this was the last vaccine which the WHO made as the EUA was given to this. This is an inactivated vaccine like our own Covaxin. There are differences between the two, which I'll share with you just now. What is done is they grow a sample, to grow virus quantities, large quantities are grown on Vero cells. After that, the viruses are soaked in beta propionic, which deactivates them. And after this deactivation, they are made into vials and injected. The trials were done in Brazil, Chile, Indonesia, Philippines, Turkey, and the efficacy was found to be 50.7%. But what we need to know is that this was done when the original strain had gone. This is the next strain. That is why the efficacy was probably less. And when they increased the gap between the 2 doses from 1 week to 21 days, it became 62.3%. So still it was much less than as compared to the RNA vaccine. Although in Turkey, they had a very large study of 12,000 people there, it showed 83.5%, still much less than the mRNA vaccines, but very similar to our Covaxin. And there is a very large real world study in Chile, and it is supposed to be the largest real world study. Millions of Chileans have been given this vaccine, and there it was found to be 67%. And the deaths and mortality was reduced by almost 80-89%. But there are problems here because politics, transparency issues, There are no published data in very good journals, so incomplete trial data is there. So there is a lack of trust in CoronaVac, although it's now WHO pre-qualified, and the full authorization is only in China. Rest of the places is emergency use authorization. There's another vaccine developed by Sinopharm. This is the company. It has two vaccines called the BBIPV and the WBIP. BBIP means the Beijing Biologicals and Wuhan Biologicals. The Wuhan Biological vaccine and the Beijing Biological, both of them have been used in the Middle East. Although Wuhan vaccine is not considered to be very good, it is less successful, so more studies are not happening. But on the phase 3 trials of the BBIP, they were done in Argentina, Bahrain, Egypt, Morocco. They found 86% effectiveness, 86%, and then 100% against serious disease. And totally, there's another internal analysis they have published as 79 efficacy. WHO has also this also, and WHO says it is 79% effective. So it is, we can take it as 79% efficacy. This is also an inactivated vaccine like the Sinovac and our Covaxin. So interestingly, you can see the Middle East has been using this vaccine, but they have said whoever has got the Sinopharm vac is eligible for a Pfizer booster dose after 6 months. So imagine you've taken the Sinopharm vaccine, 69% efficacy. So now can go and take the Pfizer vaccine after 6 months of taking this. And this is also completely authorized only in China. The rest of the countries, it's emergency use. Coming to mainly our Indian landscape, these are the vaccines which are there. Covishield we've been using, Covaxin we know. ZyCoV-D is the Zydus vaccine, which is a DNA-based vaccine. Sputnik is round the corner. Next week probably we'll get it. It's a human adenovirus vaccine. The Novavax is there around the corner, protein subunit vaccine. Serum Institute is making it here as Coavax. I'll come to all of these vaccines in detail. And the recombinant vaccine, antigen-based, is there by Biologicals E, which is called the Corbevax. And then you have an mRNA vaccine in our country also, made by Genova. And our Zuventus company is tying up with them for marketing. Then you have an inactivated vaccine platform by Bharat Biotech. There's another vaccine by Aurobindo Pharma also, which is a vesicular vaccine platform. So in short, these are the Indian vaccines which are there in the Bharat Biotech inactivated wholesale. Then you have Zydus Cadila, the DNA, and the Genova, which is the mRNA. 30 different other candidates are also there in the pipeline, but they are probably way back in the pipeline. And the imported vaccine, which we'll be making here, of course, we are making the Serum Institute AstraZeneca. Dr. Reddy's has started making the Sputnik 5, which will be available in August, September. Now we'll get the imported doses only. And Biological E is also.
You can put these slides in your.
Janssen E is Johnson & Johnson vaccine also they are taking from outside. So coming to our AstraZeneca vaccine, this was a code name. The Covishield is the real name now, AZ1222, and it's a replication deficient simian adenovirus. So that means it's an adenovirus, but it is not capable of replication. So it's not really called as a live vaccine. And it contains, again, a full-length codon optimized sequence. That means it goes inside and makes a full-length particle like the mRNA vaccine. It is developed with the help of Jennifer Institute and the Oxford University. So without going into much details, the interim results in phase 3 trials showed 70% combined efficacy with 62 and 90% from different groups. And it was increased to 81% when the second dose was given after 12 weeks. So this is important to note that when the initial studies were done, in one study it was found that when you gave after 1 month, it was 55%. And when the interval was increased to 3 months, the 12 weeks interval, then it became 81.3%. So by taking the vaccine now, after 3 months, government has done double things, that they have increased the flow of the vaccine, more people can take it, and the efficacy is also increased. These were done in large studies, 24,000, 17,000 were included in the primary analysis, and out of which these data came in. This is a very interesting Scottish study, which I thought I should bring to your notice. This was done in Scotland, various universities there. There were 1 lakh, that means a large population who were vaccinated in the study. Half of them were given AstraZeneca and half were given the Pfizer vaccine. And they found that the total efficacy of the Pfizer vaccine was found to be 85% and the Sheddock was found to be 94%. So appears a little unlikely, but this is a very large study, so have to believe it unless it's done in different countries, we don't know. And when the people above 80 years were taken into calculation, the efficacy was same, 81%. So above 80 years, they were same, but younger population, Sheddock turned out to be a little better. And 1 lakh participants is a good number. Again, this is an important study to see because now suppose we give the second dose after 3 months, then we should know how long does the immunity last. So when you see 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, the vaccine efficacy is 76%, 72, 78. And as soon as it becomes 90 to 180 days, so that means after 3 months, it drops down to almost 31.6%, although the total turns out to be 76. But after 90 days, that means 3 months, it drops suddenly. So the vaccine should be ideally taken by 3 months, but not beyond that. You can see 38 and 31 suddenly drops drastically. How do these anti-spike antibodies last after a single dose? Because now we are actually banking on the single dose for 3 months. So they last almost the same as 2 doses. You can see here. But after 90 days, the titers drop by 33% by 90 days and 64% by 180 days. So by 6 months, they've dropped by 64%. So that means you can have a booster at 180 days, most likely. So unless they actually come up with data, this is the data we have till now, 64% drop by 6 months. A very important point people ask is what happens to the vector immunity. So because we have a chimpanzee adenovirus which carries the DNA genetic material inside it, what happens if you develop antibodies to the adenovirus itself? So when you have adenovirus antibodies, they see that the amount of antibody produced is less. So what I wanted to show you was 3 colors I've made it. Titers increase with the prime dose and all. So when you have prime first dose given, the antibody levels to the adenovirus increases. But after the second dose, there is no further increase. This is an important point to note, that second dose does not increase the antibody level. But the red point was that anti-vector antibodies, the neutralizing antibodies, after the booster dose, they negatively correlated with the anti-spike. So when you have more anti-vector antibodies, the spike antibodies were less. So they were negatively correlated. But again, there was a silver lining that there was no significant correlation between the anti-vector antibodies, that means the anti-adenovirus antibodies, and the T-cell immunity. So T-cell was tested 14 days after the boost. T-cell did not change, which is a very important component. So, but these vector antibodies do have a role. Suppose we keep giving boosters of this vaccine, we may actually develop less and less and neutralizing antibodies to the COVID virus itself. Another very important thing which has been noted in this is the vaccine-induced thrombocytic thrombocytopenia, VITT. What is this? TTS is approximately seen in 1 in 88,000 in Australia and 6 in million in a European Union. Where it happens, it's mostly seen in women under the age of 40 years. And the thrombosis happens in abnormal sites, something like spleen, brain. So SVT is common. And it's usually seen 4 to 30 days after the first dose. This is important to note. 4 to 30 days after the first dose in women, less than 40 in abnormal sites. Because if a patient complains of severe abdominal pain or severe headache, after this, you must investigate them. So why this happens? Because they have seen that this vaccine activates the platelets. And in some people, this releases a protein called the platelet factor 4. Which binds to the vaccine. And once this binds to the vaccine, the platelets aggregate. Once they aggregate, they cause thrombosis. And because of the using up of the platelets, it causes thrombocytopenia. It appears to be a result of irregular immune response. So people who have history of heart attack, stroke, DVT, pulmonary embolism, or regular blood thinners are not at any extra risk of PTS. This is important. Only those with a history of clots in the brain, in the abdomen, or due to previous low count because of having heparin should avoid the vaccine. So if you have history of clots in the brain or spleen, or if you have history of low platelet count after taking heparin, then you should not take the vaccine. Then coming to our second vaccine, which is called BBV152. So this vaccine is an inactivated vaccine like we had the Chinese vaccine that is developed by Bharat Biotech along with ICMR and NIV. And without going into much details, the difference between this and the Chinese vaccine is that this has a very good compound. Along with the alum adjuvant, it has an IMDG compound, which is called the imidazoline molecule, which is a toll-like receptor, it's an agonist of T78. What is the advantage of this? It stimulates a very good T cell response directed towards TH1. So TH1 is supposed to be like we have in the whole cell vaccine DPT. So this T cell response is a good response. It lasts for a longer time. And they saw that when this IMDG was added, and in one arm where alum was added, IMDG was not added, the T cell response was much more in this. T cell responses are studied by the gamma interferon levels released after this. This is also authorized in 11 different countries, including India, obviously. The phase 3 trials showed We don't have the phase 3 trial complete data as of now. 25,800 volunteers are there. We have only got the interim analysis data, and it was found to be 81%. Good thing was that it included all people even till 98 years of age. And there were almost 2,400 participants above 60, and 4,500 had comorbidities also. So it has a very large area of study. And this was approved on the 3rd January 21. There are future plans that they have a ViroCell manufacturing platform, another in Hyderabad, in Odisha, then they are going the US market, in Brazil, in Canada also. So they will be manufacturing this vaccine across the world soon. The ingredients of Covishield and Covaxin are quite different. The important point to note is that this is the polysorbate which is there in Covishield, which can lead to anaphylaxis, which is not there in Covaxin. And otherwise, more or less, the side effects are also the same, which few side effects like body ache are more than Covaxin. The chills, rigors are more here. But it's more or less the same local side effects, systemic side effects. They are very comparable. But polysorbate 80 is the molecule which is different in Covishield, which can cause anaphylaxis in some people. And the next kit on the pipeline is the Sputnik 5. This actually Sputnik 5, when you write in this Roman letters, is the vaccine. When you write 5 in our Arabic style, then it becomes the satellite launcher, the satellite. And V also, 5 stands for V. It also stands for the vaccine. So it's a good terminology they've developed. It is developed by the Gemelli Research Institute, and it was licensed in August 20. It's a human adenovirus viral vector vaccine. The interesting thing about this is, other than different than AstraZeneca vaccine, is that it has 2 different molecules. The vaccines are supplied 2 of them as dose 1 and dose 2. And it is based on a prime boost principle. The first adenovirus is 26, and the second one is 85. And these vaccines are given 21 days apart, as compared to AstraZeneca, which is given 4 weeks apart. The rest of the components of the two vials are exactly the same. The one vaccine which you are getting in our country is one which is stored at minus 18 degrees centigrade. There's another vaccine which is available in Russia, which is called the VacLio. Lio means lyophilized. So initially, the minus 18 was made because it is easier to make, large scale use is there, it's easier, cheaper also. But Russia is a big country, they have to transport this to deeper interiors also. So this lyophilized vaccine was made, and this fortunately will be a good vaccine because it can be stored at 2 to 8 degrees. But as of now in India, we are getting the minus 18 one, and by August, September, Hetero, Ranvaccine, another 1 or 2 companies are also making the lyophilized one, which will be 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. We have another one. So these 2 are the various types of Sputnik 5. We have another one called the Sputnik Light. I'll come to that just now. So a little more about the Sputnik 5. I've shown you the vial here. One is the blue vial, which is the first dose, and the red one, which is the second dose. They have found in 40,000 volunteers. This study was done in Belarus, UAE, India, Venezuela. They found 91.6% efficacy. So it's a little more than what we have in our Bharat Biotech vaccine and the Covishield. But mind you, this study was done with the original strain. We don't know how it is effective against our strain. And it was done in various subgroups. The oldest participant here was 87 years as compared to Covaxin, which was 98 years. So, but what we need to remember is 91.6% efficacy was found in the Moscow trial. And this is the third kind of Sputnik vaccine. It's called Sputnik Light. It is nothing but the Sputnik 5. It's the first dose only. And why this came into being? Because they found after giving first dose, the efficacy was 79.4%, and which is very similar to J&J vaccine. And neutralizing antibodies were present in 91.67%. So seroconversion happened in 91.67%. And cellular response was seen, the T cell response was seen in 100% of the volunteers on day 10. So this vaccine can be of good use to people who have already got pre-existing immunity against COVID-2. So suppose you've had COVID already, the Sputnik Light can elicit the response, very good response, because the antibodies which are made after single dose of COVID Light in a person who has already had COVID are 40 to 100 times more 10 days after immunization. So it can be a good game changer for all of us who've had one COVID, either in the phase 1 or phase 2, they can go in for this 1 dose of Sputnik Light. 1 dose otherwise may not be sufficient. They are also planning to give second dose of Sputnik Light later on, again 2 to 3 months later. But as of now, we can be using this now. But let's see when it comes what the guidelines are. Another interesting trial which is happening around the world is the Sputnik 5 AstraZeneca vaccine trial. So these are trials where both of the vaccines could be used. First Sputnik 5, then AstraZeneca, or in some places AstraZeneca first and Sputnik 5 later. And this is done. This will be done in various countries. 10 countries are there. They'll be studying for 6 months, and 100 volunteers will be there in all the studies. As of now, they've started only in Azerbaijan, but the other countries are also lined up to do this dual trial. Because as you know, AstraZeneca vaccine may not be able to give repeatedly because of the adenovirus. So maybe we will be able to give a human adenovirus dose as a booster dose. In future, also, they are planning to make 100 million doses. Russia, lots of places. And in India, it will be costing us 1145 in the private hospitals, 1145 rupees. The next vaccine which we can expect in our country is the DNA plasmid vaccine, which is made by Zydus. It will be a 3-dose shot, 3-dose, and will be given intradermal. So this is an important differentiating point we must remember. The Zydus is also working on another live attenuated recombinant measles virus vaccine. It is being done in their Italy plant, but we have no further details. But this 3-dose vaccine intradermal might be there in September, October. Our own Biological E is also making 3 different vaccines. One is a recombinant protein vaccine by Baylor's College. It will be called the CorBvax. Corona B is the company and vaccine. And then they have tied up with J&J to make vaccine in India. And they're also in Canada to make an mRNA vaccine. So this will be our second mRNA vaccine in our country, other than the Genoa vaccine. This subunit vaccines will be a very important vaccine, and I personally would say that we are really looking forward to these vaccines because it's an old time-tested technology. The side effects also we all know now because we've been using this pattern of manufacture, and we also know that there are good immunological agents. The side effects are less. The only authorized vaccine as of now is the peptide vaccine, the EpiVac Corona, which is developed by the Vector Institute, Russia. What they do in this is that the antigens, like we see in the influenza vaccine, a fragment of the pathogen is used and made into a vaccine. There are 2 other vaccines which will be coming soon, the Novavax and the RBD dimer, which is there in China. The COVID vaccine candidates developed by University of Queensland. This is also, I thought I'll give it to your notice that V451 was also a subunit vaccine which was made in Australia, but it had to be withdrawn because people who got this vaccine, they showed false positive results for HIV. So this is something which people, we will have to look into, and this vaccine was later on withdrawn. Obviously, nobody wants an HIV positive report after taking a vaccine. A little more detail about the Novavax vaccine, because I told you we are really looking forward to this. It will be 2 to 8 degrees, 2 doses. I wanted to highlight how this is made. It's a very interesting way how it is made. The vaccine is produced by creating an engineered baculovirus, which contains a gene for the SARS-CoV-2. So this baculovirus then infects the culture of moth cells. What these moth cells do, they create spike protein and display it on the cell membranes. So these spike proteins are then harvested. They are assembled into a synthetic lipid nanoparticle, which is 50 nanometer across. And each of them, the nanoparticle displays a 14 spike proteins on its surface. So imagine a virus which you can't even see in a normal microscope. It is grown into cells. The spike proteins are harvested, and 14 spike proteins are taken and inserted into a nanoparticle. So it is what we call as a recombinant nanoparticle vaccine, or people also call it as a virus-like particle, but it is actually a recombinant nanoparticle vaccine. So it's not a protein subunit vaccine, to be absolutely precise. The Novavax has been in final stages of development in UK and US, and it has shown efficacy of more than 89%. So we are happy with this. The efficacy in different countries was a little less, like in Africa, Spain, it was 50 to 60%. But if you compare with our Covishield, the efficacy was less than 20%. So this is generally a good efficacy. More than 89%. In some cases, it was found to be, effectiveness was found to be 96% also in the UK trial. So we think that it should be a good vaccine next to come. And Serum Institute has already begun its production, like what it did for Covishield also. Before the trials have got approval, they have already started making the Covovax vaccine. So Novavax will be called as Covovax in our country. Then Johnson & Johnson vaccine, again, we should be getting soon. It has a replication incompetent vaccine. It is exactly like Sputnik 5, so I will not go into the details. It is like the first dose of Sputnik 5. AD26 is the adenovirus, human adenovirus particle inside which the spike protein coding is done. It was found to be 66% effective on one dose regime. But again, the 66% was against the variants. All those other vaccines which are showing 90-90 Wuhan strain. Again, the variants, they're also a little less. And it has been granted the EU and US, and also India will be making this vaccine soon. The BE will make it. Sanofi and GSK also have come together to make a vaccine. Sanofi is providing the S protein, and GSK is providing its adjuvant technology. They are famous for this, so they are making this combined vaccine. MSD vaccines or making the attenuated version of measles virus and re-engineering the existing Ebola virus. But all these things have actually gone into the pipeline because they were not showing much effect. So let's see. A very promising thing which we can look forward to is the nasal spray vaccines. This might be a game changer, and they have started research on this in the Waterloo University. Altimmune is another company in US which is trying to make it. And in our own country, Bharat Biotech is making Coroflu, which is a one drop each nostril vaccine. And Serum Institute is also tied with Codagenix to make a nasal vaccine. Phase 1, phase 2 trials have been started. In China also, they have started doing it. They have reached almost stage 2 end nasal spray vaccine. The rotavirus and COVID combination is also there in the pipeline. Bloomington University, Indiana, they're doing it. So it will be an oral vaccine because we know ACE2 receptors are there in the intestine also. So the coronavirus and the rotavirus could be given together orally. Once it comes, we might have a combination someday soon. And Vaxart is a which company. It's a public limited listed company which specializes in making oral vaccines. They haven't made any for humans as of now. Animal vaccines they've made. And they are working on a tablet form of a vaccine. All these gone, everybody wants to know how long will the protection last following natural infection first. So this is the chart. The black ones are completely immunized, and after that they become less and less immunized. So by 6 months, we still see that 40 to 50% are still carrying the antibodies, and these are the actual neutralizing antibodies. T cell immunity will continue for a longer time. What are the studies from the original trials of all these vaccines? In immunogenicity terms, lowest immunogenicity was seen in the inactivated vaccine, especially the Chinese vaccine. It did not have IMDG, which our Covaxin has. Medium range immunogenicity is seen in the Shadok vaccine, Pfizer vaccine, Moderna vaccine, and the highest immunogenicity was seen in the Novavax vaccine. In terms of tolerability, the best tolerability was in the Novavax vaccine. So if you can see here, immunogenicity is the highest, tolerability is the best. Then intermediate come the Pfizer, Moderna vaccines, and poorly tolerated ones are the adenovirus vaccines, a vaccine like our CanSino vaccine and the Oxford vaccine. We all know everybody complains of pain, swelling, high-grade fever, chills, rigors. So when we talk of vaccine efficacy, I just wanted to share 2-3 slides. We still have 15-20 minutes. So I wanted to share these few points about vaccine efficacy. What is the vaccine efficacy? It is the risk of getting the disease by vaccinated participants when you compare with the risk of getting the disease with unvaccinated participants. And it is very difficult to compare the efficacy of different vaccines because these trials were done in different populations, in different geographies, different climatic conditions, and especially more in different variants of the virus. And the efficacy of 67% found will be good enough to slow the pandemic. And USD, FDA, MDA, although they kept a point as 50% as a cutoff point, but the aim is to have a large population, like 75% being covered with a vaccine, which is 67%, which can reduce. So they have also calculated that at least 70% population has to be vaccinated to prevent an epidemic spread, and at least 80% have to be vaccinated to extinguish it. Extinguish means then people can roam around without masks and social distancing. So this is the figure when we need to do this. So 70% will prevent its new waves, but 80% will actually reduce the R0 to less than 1. And once the R0 is less than 1, it is on its way out. So this is the aim which we should all aim to. When you make the sense of efficacy number, it, like I told you, it depends on the place, on the population, stages of the pandemic, rising phase, groundwork phase. How was it measured? There are 2 ways. You can have point efficacy, you have a confidence interval, a period efficacy, duration of study was done. What were the endpoints? So when you do this, suppose we take a vaccine example like CoronaVac. So you can see if you have mild illness, you have 50% efficacy, moderate illness, 65%, severe, it becomes 78%, hospitalization, death, 100%. So when you see the efficacy number, when you compare with different vaccines, you should always compare the same with same. So you can't compare hospitalization efficacy with mild illness. So always compare probably hospitalization and death. This is the ultimate which we want to avoid just now. So compare how much hospitalization, death all these vaccines have with each other. So coming to this efficacy with hospitalization death. So when you compare against severe disease, some studies have not reported, some have reported no severe hospitalization at all, like Pfizer vaccine, Moderna vaccine. This is their initial studies. Now there have been deaths. Sputnik reported 94 to 100%. Novavax vaccine, no cases at all. CoronaVac, the Chinese vaccines reported 100%, very unlikely. Johnson & Johnson reported a realistic figure of 58 to 54 to 97%, 9 to 100%, so large range. And the 81% was shown by our Covaxin. So efficacy point estimate, I think we can leave this because it's a little complicated. What we have to also study is the efficacy against variants. So these variants can be studied either in the lab, when you have a petri dish with the virus, you pour the vaccine, see how whether it's killed or not, you have the antibodies which kill it or not, or you do field trials. So this petri dish trials are easier to do, and they've done against all these vaccines, all these strains, and they found that lab studies have shown all these vaccines are effective. They may not be as effective as the original strain, but they've all found to be effective in the lab studies. What about neutralizing antibodies? Everybody gets their antibodies done, but all these anti-spike antibodies, total antibodies have no value. Neutralizing antibodies do predict the efficacy of the vaccine. And this is a graph which you all must see. You can see the Chinese vaccine, CoronaVac, a little lower down, much lower down, in fact. The Shadok is a little better. Then you have the Covaxin. It is marked separately because these are mathematical studies. It was come to this conclusion of mathematical studies. It was better than Shadok. Then you have the Sputnik vaccine, the RNA vaccine, and the Novavax vaccine. So these all higher ones are the Novavax and the mRNA vaccine. Then you have the Sputnik, then you have Covaxin, and these are much lower down. So neutralizing antibody, when you see neutralizing body, do predict the efficacy. Okay, what about effectiveness? You know, we all know efficacy happens in the lab, and effectiveness is what is real world data, what we actually will see. So in effectiveness in Israel, we all have heard about these stories, the blue line and the red line. You can see once the vaccine was given, the cases reduced much drastically, and people who had not taken the vaccine, the cases were on the rise. So Israel is one country, then effectiveness of the mRNA and the Shadok vaccine against confirmed hospitalization and death. In UK, about 70 years was studied. And you can see here as the charts are self-explanatory. These two are for the mRNA, this is for the Shadok. And you can see single dose of either of the two vaccines, 80% efficacy in preventing hospitalization with single dose only. And after the vaccines, both of them showed very similar effects. So real world data is also there to show us that we had a good effectiveness study. This is impact data from US. Again, the chart is self-explanatory. After the vaccine, they stated this is the time when vaccine started. The cases started going down, and where people were not taking the vaccine, the cases were going up. So real world effectiveness data is there, which shows. And this is how they're showing the spread, where Israel, UAE, US, where the vaccines are much in use, the cases have been on the downside, where the vaccines are being used, but they're not being used as much as they should be. They're on the higher side. This is a correspondence which was published in NEGM. And you can see this is in the study, people who were non-vaccinated had the maximum cases. After one dose, you had these many cases. And after 14 days of the second dose, these were the cases. So imagine this is the non-one, the first dose, and this is the second dose. The vaccine effectiveness was actually studied. So this is real world data. And to make it into a chart, effectiveness data is almost 90% for most of the vaccines, the mRNA vaccines. Pfizer, BioNTech, 86%, Sputnik 5, they haven't reported, but 98% symptomatic and death, all that has been documented. Another point which I wanted to take up was another 2-3 minutes. This is how the cases increased. In 8th March, we all looked green. 8th April, it became yellow, and 21st April, it became all red. So how this increased, the most important point was the mutation. What are these mutations? They make the virus to spread quickly to humans. They cause either milder or severe disease. This time they cause a severe disease. They are able to evade detection by the specific diagnostic test. More of the tests become false negative. They are able to evade the vaccine-induced immunity. They decrease the susceptibility to therapeutic agents, especially the monoclonal antibodies. The herd immunity thresholds will change, obviously, because more and more people become susceptible. So among these possibilities, the ability to evade the vaccine-induced immunity would likely be the most concerning, because once large population is vaccinated, there will be immune pressure, which makes the emergence of variants as escape mutants. And there is no evidence, although till now, that it is occurring till now, but it may happen. And it may likely emerge because this is the nature of an RNA virus. So these mutations can be of two types, either deletion or substitution. When you have substitution, there's a self-proofreading mechanism. And deletion is the one which actually will go undetected. And the UK variant was a classical example of a deletion. And mutants happen regularly. In SARS-CoV-2, they have seen that every 2 weeks, one major mutation happens. They're expected, but all of them are not purposeful. They may not cause benefit to the virus. They may lead to selection pressure. And all these RNA viruses are known to extremely rapidly mutate. Other viruses like measles, what happens is measles also is an RNA virus, but it mutates also, but it is unable to change the protein structure, so it does not escape the immunity. Whereas on the other hand, HIV is also an RNA virus, which keeps changing so much that till now they haven't been able to even make a vaccine for it. So corona doesn't fit into that. It is closely fitting into another RNA virus, which is the influenza vaccine, which I'll show it to you just now. So what are these variants doing? The alpha variant had lots of transmissibility. The delta variant, which we had now, even had more transmissibility than the alpha variant. So alpha variant was supposedly 30% more transmissible. This was 60% more transmissible. And the human evasiveness was the maximum in the beta strain, which is the South African strain. That is why everybody is afraid of this South Africa strain, because even the best of vaccine had 70%, 80% immunity against this. And immune evasiveness, we've seen in our country, the Delta strain also, people who had taken two doses of the vaccine, they still got the disease. So immune evasiveness, the Delta was a deadly combination of transmissibility and immune evasiveness. South Africa is infamous for evasiveness, UK for transmissibility, and this one had both of these two things. Then US government, they have done these classification, variants of interest, variation of concern, and variants of high consequence. As for America, our Delta variant and the Kappa variant are still of interest. Unfortunately, there is no variant of high consequence. They have kept the Brazilian South African variant as variant of concern. They have 3 different varieties, whereas in WHO, there are 2 only, variants of concern and interest, and they keep our Delta variant as a variant of concern. So there are 2 different classifications. This is what I was about to tell you. What is the difference between the mutation of COVID and influenza? The COVID genome is it's not a big, COVID genome is one big RNA, whereas in flu, the genomes are into 8 different pieces. And it also means that it also spreads in the birds and pigs and other animals. So when you have influenza viruses in bird and pigs, and there are 8 different pieces, there is always a chance to mix and match. Whereas in COVID, the advantage is that it's only one big RNA and does not happen in animals. So even if the mutation is slightly faster in COVID as compared to influenza, but the mutation, because it doesn't interfere with animals and it is one big chunk of RNA, the mixing matching doesn't happen, because when you have 8 different pieces, one piece here and there it goes and leads to antigenic shift. So here we can expect drifts, but not shifts, what we expect there. And coming to the end of my presentation, these are the Indian statistics. We have majority as Covishield, a little percentage as Covaxin. As of yesterday, 19 crore people had been vaccinated with dose 2, 4 crores with dose 1, and this is dose 2. And this is age-wise distribution, 65 plus, 18 to 65, 18 to 45, and less than 18. And this is the vaccine gap. The blue ones are the countries which are way ahead, China, the American, and here it shows China as red, but probably it's not falling into red. It's probably blue or maybe orange. So these are the countries we are still in the red zone. And lastly, one more slide, which I made just now, is about COVID in children, because everybody wants to know COVID vaccine in children. It is vaccinate. First thing is to note is that there is still doubt whether we need to vaccinate or not, but we probably need to vaccinate them because children constitute almost 30–40% of the population. And for immunity, we saw just now herd immunity, we need to vaccinate 80% of the people. So children have to be included. We have to open schools, so children have to be vaccinated. But some, on the other hand, say that they are not drivers of infection. And suppose we vaccinate the children, maybe once they come across the virus, chances of the multi-system involvement may be more. So we might see more missing after giving the vaccine. We don't know about this. On the other part of the planet, Pfizer has already started giving the vaccine 12 years plus. It's easier to give 12 years plus because the dose remains the same. But the Pfizer have although started another trial, 4,500 children for children less than 12 years. They were divided into two groups. One is 5 to 11 age group, which they are giving 10 microgram. Then you have less than 5 age group, they are giving 2 microgram and 3 microgram. Whereas the original one is 100 microgram, what we adults reach. So imagine just 10 microgram and 3 microgram is being tested. Covaxin has also started the trial for 2 to 12 years. Initially, it will be 12 to 18. After that, 6 to 12, and then less than 2 to 6. Zydus has already tested its vaccine in 12 to 18 age group, and Sinovac CoronaVac vaccine has already given EUA to children 3 years plus. But the details are not known. As you know, Chinese details we hardly come to know in full. So to conclude, I just wanted to say that the live vaccines, attenuated vaccines have been time tested, but they all take long time. And as I demonstrated with mRNA and the Novavax, these technologies actually sound like science fiction. And the drawback is also there that these mRNA vaccines and the Sherdock vaccine, they have not got major experiences. Only Ebola vaccine, which was in use, but that also used for a very small number of people. They may be less immunocompetent. They might need repeated boosters. They have passed, the vaccines have been passed under EUA on their basis of the immunogenicity and efficacy. We don't know about their effectiveness. We don't know about the herd effects, duration of protection, booster requirements. And I would imagine the best vaccine would be a multi-dose vial of a live attenuated vaccine, which will be given as a nasal spray. It will be much easier to give. It will give you local immunity into the nose. So once you have local immunity into the nose, the transmission of the disease also is less. And obviously, if you can make a multi-dose vial, just stand everybody in the line and everybody can be given one puff each nostril and you're done with it. Websites and apps, we know our COVID app has done a great job in maintaining the supply chain from production to the recipient. It's everybody knows where the vaccine is, which batch reaches where, and we obviously can monitor AFI also. And one of my first slides, which I made in June 5th, last year, I was the first one to do a talk on COVID vaccine. This was the slide I started with. We must consider this point that what if humans were the virus which were killing the earth, and nature has sent COVID to save the earth from us. So please wake up and we should reset our behavior. We have seen the changes of what our behavior made onto the earth. So even after you've taken the vaccine, please wear a mask, wash your hands, keep safe distance, keep taking care of your elderly. Do not touch your face when you're in the clinic, and stay safe. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun, for a very excellent lecture. You have really touched everything, but you have gone very, very fast. So it did not even reach my head also, everything. But definitely it is an excellent preparation. You have really gone through the details of each and every aspect of vaccination. There are definitely several questions which are going to come up, especially practical questions. Now, to begin with, I would like to start a question.
So, question aapne answer karna.
No. First of all, the efficacy of these vaccines are done in the laboratory by neutralizing antibody. I would like to know what is the critical level of the neutralizing antibody, which is sufficient for protection.
So that's what the problem is. They haven't really found out the correlate of protection. So there are only studies we found. Dr. Kasi showed me the study just 2 days ago. And these are done in NHPs, the non-human primates. And they found any level more than 100, they found as to be effective. But this, cutoff has still not been reached of correlate of protection.
So that is what is the problem. So cutoff has still not been reached.
Yeah.
So even the protective level, we do not really know.
We don't know.
We still really do not know the protective level.
Yes.
So in relation to that, the question, there was a Dr. Debashish Das has asked a question that since we really do not know even the correlation of protection and how we are going to know about the effectiveness, it can be even because of other factors also effectiveness can be there. Because we are giving vaccines, there is no doubt. But there are other factors are also there which are.
So that is what effectiveness data is, the real data. So आपको पता है that effectiveness is the real data what we see in the study in the field trial, and effectiveness data will take a long time. So after these vaccines have been there in the market for a couple of years, then only we'll probably know the effectiveness data.
So that is why the real effectiveness is still not known.
Long way. Yes.
It is still not known, and that is what is the answer to Debashish's question.
General acid test.
Yeah, Debashish had asked also another question, and he has asked that
mixing of vaccines, I think.
Debashish has asked something. He has asked about a question regarding Steven Johnson syndrome and Covishield or something like that.
Yeah, they have said that a patient had Steven-Johnson syndrome. He was refused a vaccine. So actually, sir, as initially when it came, Covaxin was being told that you should not take the vaccine because if you have history of allergy, you should not take. But now it is clearly said that both the vaccines can be. Initially, they did have to refuse because the vaccines were new. Nobody wanted to take a chance. But now I think they will give it.
Okay.
You can take the vaccine now.
Okay. Now, I'll just keep this session open now for others to ask questions. Any questions? You can unmute it. Sankalp.
One iPhone, he hasn't mentioned, one iPhone has said that lions in Tamil Nadu have found to be affected.
Oh, lions is, nobody is going to
stay away from lions.
Nobody is going to be with lions, so don't bother about lion. And most of the other reactions are their best vaccine talk so far. So
they haven't heard the better ones. So that's why.
Excellent talk, sir. Informative, brilliant talk, comprehensive and easily comprehensive. So current talks are very well summarized.
So IAP West Delhi President Dr. Alok Bhandari is with us today. He has also raised a hand. Dr. Alok, please.
Please.
Good evening, friends. It's been a very nice session. But what I want to ask is, what is this current status of availability of the vaccine? And if anybody from the government sector is there, can they brief us that what is the current position, like how the vaccine, we are going ahead with this vaccination program? Like government has said, 21st June onwards, there will be vaccine will be freely available. Or still that app business is going to run, and then we have
so anybody from the government wants to
appointments?
answer, Dr. Datta answer कर सकते हैं आप.
मैं थोड़ा ही government पे हुआ भी. I'm not in the government, but definitely whatever we have heard that this government is trying their level best to give the vaccines to each and every states in a manner that they say that by the end of this year, almost half of the population of India will be vaccinated, and which is a very good sign.
So basically, it's a demand-supply gap we have to match. Suddenly, the demand increased because it included 18 years plus also, and the vaccine supply wasn't there. But now, once
but nowadays
once it gets better, then we should get it.
It has become much better now.
Yes. Yeah. 1 week, 10 days, it was a little problem.
Yes. Any other question?
Dr. Gautam has raised his hand. I don't know. Actually, or by accident.
Gautam, bolo, bhaiya.
Gautam's iPhone, it says.
Sir, it's Dr. Deepti, sir. Dr. Deepti Wahi.
Okay.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Can we interchange vaccines in case somebody has received Covishield as the first dose?
No.
Can he go in for a Sputnik in the second one?
No, as of now, no. Maybe, after we've had trials of these vaccines interchangeability, as of now, there's only one trial in Spain where Covishield was followed up by Pfizer vaccine. And they found 40 times increase in the antibody levels after giving this as compared to 2 Covishields. So that is the only thing one can think of. And quite a few people I know, at least 4 people I know, who have taken 2 Covishields here and gone to America and taken Pfizer vaccine. But this Sputnik and AstraZeneca and all these cannot be possible as of now because you are registered under the COVID app. You can't take it also. And it's not done. Interchangeability has not been studied. So it's off-label.
So because out of options, because we have very little supply of vaccines available, and
no, but you can't change. No. Once you go to the center, they will see which one have you got earlier. They will not give you the other one.
You cannot take
Right.
the other one. You cannot take the other one. Dipti, you will have to take
Yes, sir.
the one
So
which
as of now, yes, sir, but there are studies going on where they are studying. In case we can take it, there will be a better
Later on,
immune response.
later on, we might all take another one.
Right.
every few days you will find that there will be new knowledge and
Right, sir.
new changes
Right,
are
sir.
there. So
Right,
far,
sir.
no.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other hand?
So Dr. Alok Bhandari wants to know availability of Pfizer may be possible. Maybe August, September, we might get it. The issue would be storage, -80, -70 degrees.
Chalo, if there are no other questions, I think I would like to thank each and everyone
Well in time,
for
absolutely.
their participation. It's a very large number of gatherings, as usual, with Arun in giving talk. And I really enjoyed the talk very much.
Good.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you,
sir.
Arun.
Thank you.
सर आपका जोक रह गया सर लास्ट में।
अच्छा जोक रह गया। चलो एक जोक बता।
डॉक्टर खडूजा ने क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछा।
सर मैं पूछने वाला था लेकिन डॉक्टर दीप्ति ने पूछ लिया और एक लास्ट मैं अगर मैं हाथ उठा रहा था अगर आप अलाउ करें तो।
हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल अलाउ करो।
As you said कि nasal vaccine will be a better option. तो मतलब ऑल ओवर इंडिया में तो सबका मास्क नाक के नीचे ही रहता है तो वो ज्यादा प्रोटेक्टिव रहेगी इसका मतलब।
कौन सी वाली nasal vaccine? Yeah, one
Yes,
day
sir.
because it's a live vaccine. It will take the longest to come because live vaccine means suppose the dose is slightly more and people start developing corona, even 1 in 1,000 cases, it will be a major issue. So it will come the last. By then probably we would be over with the pandemic.
Whatever vaccines are nowadays available, it does not prevent infection because it is preventing the disease, but it is not preventing infection. So nasal in the nose as well as nasopharynx, the infection is still there, and that is why even following vaccination, also you'll have to take all COVID appropriate behavior, and that is what is very important. Please remember that. Okay.
Wadla sir, among the available vaccine in India, which one you think is the best one?
All of them.
Both of them?
All of them, yes.
You can take anyone.
Anyone.
Whatever is there. And in some of the cases where you are finding that, he has specifically told that the chances of thrombosis and other things which are there, in that case, maybe Covaxin has got less than the other one. Rest, otherwise, whatever you get, take it. And that is what
it's like wholesale and cellular, whichever you get, it's better to take.
No, not like that.
It is not wholesale cellular. It is a different thing.
Only difference I make in my personal practices, all these people who are lactating or women less than 40 years in this age group, I tell them to go and find Covaxin and take, because that BIT was seen mostly in this age group. And pregnancy and lactation is something where progesterone levels are more and chances of thrombus maybe a little more. So there I specifically tell them go and take Covaxin. Otherwise, take anyone.
Otherwise, yes, absolutely. I also give the same type of advice. Okay, एक छोटा सा जोक बता देता हूँ. बहुत ये सुना हुआ है तुम लोगों को, बट तभी भी और एक बार सुना देता हूँ. बहुत साल पहले एक पंजाब में एक छोटा सा गांव था, उस पे 2 फ्रेंड्स रहते थे. तो उस पे एक फ्रेंड अल्टीमेटली बहुत पढ़ाई लिखाई करके यूके में जाके सेटल हो गया है. द अदर फ्रेंड बिकेम पढ़ाई लिखाई ज्यादा नहीं किया, खेती बाड़ी करता था. सो बट दे हैड वेरी गुड फ्रेंडशिप, एंड जब भी वो फ्रेंड आता था, यूके से आता था, लंदन से आके मिलता था, बोलता है भाई तुसी कदी आओ साडे कोल. बोलता साडे कोल ते पैसा नहीं हैगी. बोलता कोई गल नहीं, मैं तो टिकट भेज देवांगा. तो इसका बाद टिकट भेज देता है. तो जाने से पहले उसका जो गाँव वाला बंदा है, उसको सब गाँव वाले बोलते हैं, पंचायत ने मीटिंग बुलाया. मीटिंग में बोला है कि भाई सुखबीर तुसी जा रहे हो, जो तुसी आओगे तुसी लंदन दा कहानी किस्सा तुसी सुना देना. बोलता है हो जी सुना दूंगा. तो सारे ट्रक में भर के सुखबीर को भेजने के लिए ये आया है तुम्हारा न्यू दिल्ली में, उस टाइम पे पलाम एयरपोर्ट होता था, उस पे आके उसको बिठाया है। देयर वाज अ बिग एयरक्राफ्ट, ब्रिटिश एयरवेज का बोइंग था, उस पे बैठा है। बेचारा अंग्रेजी भी नहीं आता है, बैठा है। थोड़ा देर बाद एक सुनी कुड़ी आई, आके पूछे कि व्हाट डू यू लाइक टू हैव सर, वुड यू लाइक टू स्टार्ट विथ सूप? ही केप्ट क्वाइट, उसको कुछ समझ में नहीं आया। दूजी कुड़ी आई, सुनी कुड़ी आई, उन्होंने भी यही पूछा, वाइस यू आर नॉट स्पीकिंग सर, व्हाट वुड यू लाइक टू हैव, वुड यू लाइक टू स्टार्ट विथ सूप? अगेन ही केप्ट क्वाइट। तो उन्होंने सोचा कि भैया उसका कोई भूख शूख नहीं है, खाना ही सर्व नहीं किया। बाय द टाइम ही रीच्ड हिथ्रो एयरपोर्ट, ही वाज सो हंग्री, ही रीच्ड इमीडिएटली। नीचे जाके एक रेस्टोरेंट मिला, उस रेस्टोरेंट पे जाके उसने पूछा है कि मुझे भूख लगी है, मुझे खाना दो। The steward comes and asks, what do you like to start with? Would you like to start with soup? जिथे जाओ सुप्पा ही सुप्पा बोल दे हो, मैनू भूख लगी है, मुझे खाना चाहिए। The manager also comes and asks, okay, why you are not telling what you want? Would you like to start with soup? मैनू कुछ नहीं चाहिए दिया। He just leaves it, बोलता है मैं अपना साढ़े फ्रेंड दा कोली जान गए, उत्थे ही जाके खाना खाएंगे। He takes a taxi, goes to his friend's house. He finds that it is locked, and he said that, "Bhai Sukhbir, मैं ते बीमार हूँ, मैं होली फैमिली हॉस्पिटल रूम नंबर 420 विच उत्थे एडमिट हूँ, तुसे उत्थे आ जाओ." So he goes there. उधर जाके he was so tired, and he finds that the room was empty and bed was empty. So he lies down there. In the meantime, सबसे बड़ा डॉक्टर तुम्हारा जैसा राउंड हो रहा था, नर्सेस जूनियर रेसिडेंट को लेके, बोलता है, यू गो टू रूम नंबर 420, देयर इज वन इंडियन पर्सन इज देयर, and you give soap water enema to him because he needs it and he is a little troublesome. So 3-4 तगड़ा बंदे को ले जाओ और उसको अच्छा से पकड़ के और सोप वाटर एनिमा दे दो। तो इस तरह से 4-5 लोग जाके उसको बोले है, प्लीज ओपन योर ट्राउजर्स सर, वुड लाइक टू गिव सोप वाटर एनिमा। तो जिथे जाओ सुप्पा ही सुप्पा बोल दो, मैं कितना बार दसांगा कि सुप्पा नहीं चाहिए दिया। Ultimately, they forced open his trousers and gave soap water enema. In the meantime, his friend comes. ऊपर से आके देखा, बोलते, what are you doing? So he is my friend. बोलते, sorry, we mistook him as a patient and we had given you. After that, he had a very nice time. फ्रेंड ने बहुत घुमाया फिराया। फिर जब इंडिया वापस आया तो गांव पंचायत ने फिर मीटिंग करके बोला है, भाई सुखबीर हुन तुसी दसो तुहाडा लंदन दा कहानी किस्सा। तो भाइयों और बहनों, जो पहले दफे तुसी लंदन जाओ और पहले दफे तुहानू सूप दिया जाए, ये सूप तुसी पी लेना, नहीं तो यही सूप तुहानू दूजी रास्ते विच पिलाया जाएगा। थैंक यू। Okay, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
I would like request Dr. Poonam ma'am to please give vote of thanks and announce the next CME, please.
मेरा प्लांट भी ड्यू हो गया, पौधा।
खाली तुम्हारा नहीं भैया, मेरा भी 2 ड्यू है।
बिल्कुल।
संकल्प 2 ड्यू है मेरा, पूनम एंड संकल्प।
हाँ जी सर।
पिछले साल वाले अब मुरझा गए हैं।
Ma'am, I think Dr. Poonam is not there. So thank you.
She's there. She's there. Mic is mute.
Okay.
Sorry. So as we all know, herd immunity is the only way forward to fight the coronavirus. And Dr. Arun Wadhwa, as always, has given us an excellent insight into what is new and what to expect in the future. And thank you so much, Arun Wadhwa.
Thank you.
Brilliant as usual, always.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Datta, sir, for coming at a short notice. And thank you for entertaining us with your wonderful jokes, sir. We enjoyed it a lot. Thank you, all the participants. And we had a good full house today of 60 participants. And next week, we have a very important guest speaker, Dr. Abhay Shah, and he will be talking to us on why antibiotics fail. So please do join in large numbers, and we should all meet again next Thursday. Till then, good night, everybody.
मैम टॉपिक समझ नहीं आया क्या है नेक्स्ट वीक.
Why antibiotics fail.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So good night, everybody. Good night. Enjoy your dinner.
Good night.
Thank you.
And stay safe. Please stay safe.